Hi, I am Jeppe from Agroganic, and the team from Agroganic has made this little webinar about corn in the Baltics. It's yeah, some of you guys are already starting up, but we believe it's a part of the future crop that we are going to have in the Baltics. Um, Here's a little agenda of what we are going to talk about. It's like, why are we going to have this corn? Then on top of that, then we will talk a little bit about the climate changes that we are seeing. Then a little bit about the money-wise, is it worth it? And we'll talk a little bit about the FAO numbers and a little bit what it needs as nutrients. Again, why corn? A big issue in general in the Baltics, it's the pH. We're having problems with the pH, low pH in some places, a lot worse than others. Barley is not very good at this. We can see down here, like we have a pH range that's from 6.5 to 7.5, where the barley works good. We have the oats that is by far the best, but profit-wise, maybe not the best in the Baltics. And then we have the corn and the wheat, which has not as good as the oats, but still quite good pH range. Of course, we also have potatoes, works very well in low pH, but contract-wise, I believe it's quite difficult to get it, and yeah, it's a totally different setup you need to have for the potatoes. Yeah, of course, there's also other crops that works good in the low pH, but as a spring crop alternative, that's like the maize and the oats is a good alternative to the barley. I found this EU map that is showing the climate changes the last um, 30 years, which shows like it's getting hotter, and it's like going quite fast. So the climate we had in Germany or Poland in like 1995, or maybe we can't see the years of here, like in 1985, we have that in Latvia um, and Estonia now. So like it's moving up, it's moving fast. Another interesting thing is that with these predictions that with the climate that it's moving up, then we can see that present day the corn area in it's all this dark blue, and then in 2050, then we have the light green blue up here. So like middle of Estonia and the islands and north of Stockholm and all of Denmark and most of UK is also going to be corn country. And by 1980, we are halfway up in Finland, close to the how to say Santa Claus. The Santa Claus village. It's like up in the north, like in the corner of this map. We can like this Santa Claus village up in Finland. So like it's moving up, and we have these lost areas in Spain where there's been grown maize, and in France, and in the grain basket of Italy is also going to be too hot to have corn in. And under this map, we also have, which we also see today, that farmers in Romania is stopping to have maize. It's simply just too hot. they have stopped using the growing season during the summer. Also they are, for example, they are having malting barley seeded in November and harvested in June, because June, July, August, it's simply too hot that it's gonna kill everything. So yeah, but interesting map to see that with the predictions we see, then yeah, corn is going to be a natural crop that we're going to have in the Baltics. And here again, like this heat map over Europe. We have some spots, but in general, like all these, all the green, no, sorry, the light blue is corn area for the lowest FAO number that we have present day. And when I say low FAO number, then like 140, 150. And again, another great thing in the Baltics for you guys that are living over there, then a normal thing is that we have 6 weeks of dry weather in the spring, which is perfect for the corn. And when the corn starts flowering, it needs water in, let's say, 10th of July. It's where the harvest starts, and we normally always get a lot of rain. So water-wise and sun-wise, the climate is perfect for corn in the Baltics. FAO number, and it's also when you are talking with the KWS or Limagrain, also they are also known to this issue that we are moving the corn belt north, so they are working extensively on lowering these FAO numbers, and they are going lower and lower and lower and lower. And I have heard that we will see, maybe not to the coming season, but next season again, we will see a corn with a FAO number of 110, which will be perfect for especially the Estonian market. The FAO number, like the FAO number means that how many days it takes to get the kernel moisture under 20%. But it's not comparable to, for example, it takes 100 days in Estonia. The comparable thing would be how long time it would take in, for example, Hungary or Serbia or Romania down there, where this original corn belt is, or even more south. But yeah, we have this limiting thing that we can see some years that the frost already comes in, let's say, middle of September. And when the frost comes, the growth stops, and we will not have any more starch to the cobs. So we need to be sure that the plants are actually already ready with the filling up the cobs in the middle of September. There's more potential in a corn with a FAO number of 170 or 270, but they will never mature in the Baltics. So go with the lowest FAO number. Is it worth it? We have our the current alternative that we are using now is the barley, and if we are comparable to a achievable yield, 5 tons, and the grain price we estimate to be the same, Then we have we have some issue like some differences when we're going down. Direct cost. It's a quite expensive crop. The seeds are expensive, and it needs a lot of fertilizer and NPK. We have more work with it. The seeding is more expensive, and the transport home is more expensive, and the harvesting is more expensive. That's why the machine cost in the barley is 370 euros, and in the corn 520. Drying cost is estimated to be 70 euros per hectare in the barley and 400 euros in the corn. But I will also get to this at a later point. But it's the material we are harvesting a lot more, and it's a lot more wet, a lot more handling. After all cost, we have 160 euros in the barley and 280 euros in the maize. So we have 120 euros more to ourselves when everything is paid. We also have some minuses. For example, seeding a crop after the corn for I'll say dry corn. It's not going to be possible. It's going to be too late. So we are going to postpone the the alternative, the crop rotation will look different. But after the corn, we could maybe have some beans and some peas, and then wheat, raps, wheat, corn, beans. It's an issue that we don't have any alternative to seed a winter crop after, which we have in the barley. Yeah, but when all comes to all, we have the break-even point to at 4.2 tons in the barley and 7.6 tons in the corn. Also, an extremely important thing in our startup of the maize is our phosphor together with seeding. And I have taken these test plot data from Segis to show you that how many kilos of phosphor you should put together with the seeding. If we are and the extra yield is like extra yield per 100 kilos. So here we have 260 kilos extra of corn after we have paid the phosphor. If we give it 10 kilos of phosphor, we have 450 kilos of maize left to pay. So there's a profit in it, and we see that when we're giving more than 50 kilos of phosphor, there will not be that big of a difference. When we go from 15 to 22 kilos of phosphor of startup fertilizer, there's only 40 kilos of corn extra, so it's not worth it. So if we have room for it in our phosphor limit per hectare, then it would be ideal to give it 50 kilos of phosphor together with the seeding. And it doesn't matter if your field has nice phosphor levels, it doesn't matter. This is, we have so intense growing period, so the corn doesn't have time to go out and find all the available phosphor in the field before it's too late. So we are talking available phosphor startup. Three extremely important things before we start thinking about growing maize. Seedbed temperature. We don't go out and start seeding it when just after the frost. Then we should focus on our temperature-wise. Then we should start with our oats, then our barley, and then our corn. First for startup, 10 to 15 kilos, no matter what the soil sample says. Keep it clean for the weeds. Until 6 leaves, they are extremely vulnerable against other weeds. So keep it clean. It's number one on the priority list on the sprayer until it has 6 leaves. And if we have kept the corn clean until it has 6 leaves, then we are home free and job done, and just get ready for harvest. And the fourth and also very important thing before we think about how many hectares we want to have at the farm, we need to calculate backwards how many tons can we handle. Drying capacity wise, I have taken into an example of the biggest dryer that this Suckup has as this mobile dryer, which a lot of you farmers have. What we are seeing now is that between 30 and 30%, 37% moisture is a realistic thing to harvest the corn with. We cannot take out more than 10% moisture per time it runs through the dryer, or else the kernels will get so hot that they will get brown or black, and it will count as bad grain, and you will not get any money for it. A little calculation on the dryer. The dryer example here is taken with dryer capacity, max capacity on the heat, and after the dryer we have cool down silos. Okay. This dryer we had before, it was like this 4%. It can take 4% moisture out of 40 tons per hour. Calculated the other way, it can roughly take around 1,600 liters of water out of the grain. If the corn has 35% moisture, as we see here, we need to take 200 liters out of every ton we come with. It means that the dryer can take around 16 tons per hour. I have estimated that even though a dryer runs close to 24 hours per day, when we are moving at maximum capacity, then it needs to be emptied and serviced and blown down every day, and something goes wrong and breaks down, or a lot of things can happen. So to be realistic, then we take 16 hours per day of running. We estimate that we can have the harvest to around 21 days. We can of course harvest it a lot faster, but we cannot, like if you are getting grain home with 35% moisture, it needs to have some kind of airflow or somehow, and you don't want to put something with 31% moisture into a silo and then put air through it. So it's, I would not be happy to take it out again of the silo. So to be sure, then we only harvest what we can dry down that day. So let's estimate that we can harvest over 3 weeks, 21 days. If it works like that, then if we work at maximum capacity with that dryer, a dryer of that system would be able to handle around 2,600, 2,700 tons in a season. And if we estimate that we have 10 ton corn per hectare, then the maximum capacity would be around 260, 270 hectares in a season, and 10 to 12 hectares per day to harvest. So it's also taking into account that this is, don't start up with 1,000 hectares. Try to start up with also, does it work in your area? Do you get the water at the correct time? Can you make the correct seed bed at the right time? And do you have your silo capacity in the end? And the nutrients estimate that it needs like roughly 150 kilo of nitrate, 25 phosphorus, and 140 potassium or kali, which is nitrate and phosphorite. It's quite normal, but it takes a lot of potassium, this plant. But that is what I had for you for today. So have a good day.